Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of East Street, September the 26th, 2019. I'd like to ask Dean Manning to come forward, lead us in our invocation and our pledge. If everyone will stand.
Our Heavenly Father, we come tonight, Father, we ask you to lead and guide each one of us tonight, Father. What needs to be done for our city, Father. Bless each one that's come out this way, touch over to the death thing, be his Lord, touch our men and ladies on the battlefield, Father, watch over them, Father. Help us, Lord, to be what you want us to be, not what nobody else, but you, Lord. In Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Ms. Walls.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hilton. Here. Councilmember Cagle.
Here.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Here.
Councilmember Witt. Here. City Manager Dorsey.
Here.
City Attorney Litchford.
Here. I assume everyone has had the opportunity to review the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the September 12th, 2019 agenda work session, the minutes of the September 12th regular council meeting, the July 2019 financial report, and the approval of the August 2019 financial report. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Chauncey and a second by Vice Mayor Hilton. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, sir. I have some in the July budget. I didn't find a line item 34,648, which I found in the August budget, in the Revenue Department.
Oh, because it's a new revenue line item, and they didn't start taking money for it until August.
We had a expenditure in July.
No. I think the expenditure started, they could have been in July.
No, they didn't have it.
Okay, I know in August we started to have some. But yeah.
July, we have what they call a diversion fund.
Yes,
In
sir.
August, we'll be spending $200 for it, so I don't know what a diversion fund is.
Okay, it's a diversion, and that's actually when someone, I may not explain this exactly right, Mark may have to come in here. It's when the court, it's a fee for, and it goes to, the defendant pays the fee, it's to have something taken off the record.
Okay, yes.
Oh, it's special.
It's a, yeah,
Well, no, what happened in this case, okay, that includes,
so they do that off and on, and we get money to do
what
the
happened was, the
process.
city received double payment on a lien that it had filed, and it got payment
No, this is
because.
different.
Oh,
This is a criminal, this is a defendant in either traffic, I would assume generalizations, or a traffic where they're paying a diversion fee to the state, TBI.
okay, so diversion would just be in a situation where a particular type of crime was committed that qualifies for diversion. They pay a certain amount of fine, and then they are able to successfully achieve the requirements of that diversion, and then they get a payback on that.
So we get paid money to file the paperwork by the defendant.
One more thing. Grants, go ahead.
Okay. The Interstate Street Aid.
Grant.
Yeah, you're gonna have State Street Aid, look over to.
Here's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay. I noticed we have not collected any anything but $9.
Yes, sir, that's
And we
interest.
done spent $142,764, so where did we spend it?
Okay, that is actually, remember y'all approved a loan from the general fund to the grant fund? And that is money, it doesn't show as a revenue, it's a due to, due from. And so we're buying, that's what we're buying right of ways on the multimodal.
That's where it shows up,
Yes,
expenditures.
uh-huh.
So we're buying right away.
Yes, sir, they're buying the right of ways.
All right, that's what I had.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt. Yes. Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item 5 is communication from citizen. This is the opportunity for any citizen, business owner, who'd like to come forward with any questions, concerns, to present to the council. Everyone will have 5 minutes. I think we have one person signed in. Thank you. We'll let you get set back down. All right. Denny Manning. If you come forward and state your name and your address, please, for record.
My name is Dee Manning, 910 Sunnydale Circle, East Ridge, Tennessee. And I'm not coming in.
Mr. Manning, see if the light's on.
It is now, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll give it again. Denny Manning, 910 Sunnydale Circle, East Ridge, Tennessee. I've been there 50 years. Sometimes I feel like I've been 150. But I come tonight to solve some problems. Not with none of y'all. I got no problem with nobody up there. But I want to stop some rumors going around. And I was told that the mayor had fired me. That was a lie, but found that out that was a lie. And I told the mayor to his face tonight, and the person that did it blanked their number out. But the only thing I can say, Mayor, I find out who's got it, they're gonna be standing here. And also I was told the city manager had fired me and you'd fired me. And I never had been sworn in. I swore in by 2 judges here in East Ridge. Both of them gone to be with the Lord. And also had some other judges downtown come out doing my swearing in as the police chaplain and the city chaplain. And somebody said the other day, so he don't pastor a church no more. Well, let me let you know something. I'm supply pastor at a bunch of churches. Now, I pastored one church for 35 years, Grayville Baptist Church, which they've changed the name now. And Midway Baptist Church, I was a pastor there. Canaan Baptist Church, I was a pastor there. And then, I can't think the other one, it's down Ross Boulevard, I was there. All told, I pastored about 60-something years. And Lord laid on my heart to be a supply pastor. What a supply pastor is, I'll explain to all of you. Supply pastor, if a pastor gets sick and ain't able to go fill his pulpit, they call me. And this past Wednesday night, I filled in from my pastor at Midway Baptist Church in Ringo, brother down there, and because he has gout in the feet, he can't walk. Well, anytime anybody got a problem, or if somebody needs to go to the hospital, they'll call me. If the pastor ain't able to go, I go. And I don't get a dime for it. I pastored Grayville Baptist and other churches all them years and never charged a dime because my blessing come as seeing souls get saved. My blessing is still the same thing as seeing souls get saved. Somebody asked me the other day, Preacher, can we ask you a question? I should ask me anything you want to, but you may not like the answer. But anyhow, all these years I've done that, and all the years I've been here off and on since '84 as the chaplain. And when I was told I got fired, now I found out that's a lie, and my fired city manager, you're my boss. Okay, I just wanted to, I didn't want to get you in trouble either. And that's the reason I tried to get you to go with me too, because I'm this way. Yeah, that's the reason I want to go and tell the mayor all the garbage going on. But all I can say, if a person sitting in this room and ain't got enough sense enough to be man enough to come to me, don't ring my friggin' phone, period. And don't tell me no rumors, because I find out who you are, I'm bringing it to the mayor. I'm bringing the whole friggin' council up here. Because I like every one of you up here. We may not agree to everything, but hey, when I pastored church, I didn't agree with everybody, and they didn't agree with me. But I believe you stand on what you believe in, and thank y'all for giving this opportunity.
Well, we appreciate your
And I
service.
apologize to y'all.
No apology necessary, but, like we discussed with you earlier, the mayor nor the council has any involvement or input or decisions with administrative. So, you know, I couldn't fire you if I wanted to, which I wouldn't want to. And I would never insinuate or suggest that breaks the charter. That'll never occur from me. I don't believe anybody on this council as well will ever cross that line. I think we have a great council up here. But those words were not spoken by me, and you just confirmed that he's not fired, so it's all rumor. So
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Well, that's also, do I still get to do the field escorts as a chaplain? I've done it all these years.
We can talk about it. I didn't know you did them, but that doesn't mean you
Yeah, so
can't.
been doing it since '84. I'm almost older than you.
We'll discuss, we'll sit down and find out more about your role and all the stuff you did.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
thank you. Do we have anyone else about to come forward? Let's see, no one. We'll move on into communications from council members. I'll start on this side this time. Councilmember Cagle.
Last report I got about the park, August 30th, is supposed to be the deadline, it's supposed to be finished. I talked to Mr. Dorsey about it the other day, did you ever do the final checklist thing on it to see what was finished?
I know they were working on it. I don't know what the final status is on the checklist. Do you have to know, Mr. Pastor?
They did a walk 3 weeks ago, but I don't have an update.
Right, which was the end of August. Yeah.
Well, the reason why I say that is because I went there and drove around and I couldn't get in to gate the lot, but I do know they still like the floor covers over the dugout, I mean, not the dugouts, but the bleachers over the big fields. Floor covers over the 4 fields in the back, they got the little field, 4 fields up front, so I mean, we still like the floor covers over 8 of the fields. And then I was wondering, I couldn't get into the concession stands. I found out if we got all the concession stands built like they come in and ask for excess money for, especially one between the 4 big fields when they extended it, supposed to make it more like a commercial kitchen. And then the one up on the hill had a commercial kitchen in it. But last time I heard, they didn't have the money to do it, so.
I'll make sure at the next meeting we have a full report for you on what the status is on all those items.
And then about the thing that you requested, about getting that shut off valve, return valve, took out the little floor, put the wall.
Yes, I know that was done.
Oh, you know
Because I
that?
had no idea why they would put a backflow preventer in the middle of the concession stand out against the wall. That was an issue with the architect and the miscommunication between the architect and the contractor. And I said, I don't care which one you pays to fix it, but it's got to be fixed, and it's been fixed.
And I went to
And I told you also I was putting together, we're working on a list because I had some issues with the architect.
And I told you, I noticed that they had moved all the dirt. Are they gonna leave it for us to clean up that mess out there where all the dirt was put? Or are we gonna wait on Mother Nature to brush it off?
I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in trouble with TDEC, so we're not going to let them wait on Mother Nature. So we'll have to go out and see what needs to happen.
Spring sweep or something down
Okay.
there. That's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Hilton.
I was just gonna ask about the countertops in the arena, but I'll wait on your
That will all be part of
report.
it.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yeah, to tag on to some of the items left on at the park, I noticed that the bleachers are still on the ground. I thought we had approved to have put on concrete pads.
They are on, they're supposed to be on concrete pads when it gets finished.
That's correct. We ran into, so one of the things, you talk about the shade structures, we ran into some issues on shade structures for fields 10, 11, and 12, and 9 and 10. The big 4, when the first company came out and did the location, they didn't locate anything. They marked everything up, everything was good to go, all the orders were stuff done. We bring in the same company to do it again. They found gas line, water line, some electrical, which wouldn't allow us to dig and attach those the same way. So that's one reason why those are not covering the bleachers on the big fields. But as far as some of the rest of it, we'll do a detailed report on what's left and what's unfinished, and if it is unfinished, why.
But now the shades are separate from, that's a whole separate thing from the construction contract.
Yeah, but I think they were looking at it all together.
Right, but he was talking about the punch list
Right, right.
of things, that's separate from the shades, but yeah. So the issue on the shades is, like you said, they had, it was the same, because who knows what lines are where on Camp Jordan, because that's on private property, and over the years, we don't know. They haven't been able to find out what's where on some of the items. So they had to get a company to come in, it was like a sonar company, and they looked the first time, and then we ordered the shades based on that. The second time they came back, lo and behold, they found a gas line, a water line, things like that. So we haven't coming back a third time, I don't know if they've come yet, but they've been able to try to come back to try to find out why there was a huge difference between the first and second times they came out to check it. So we're waiting on them to come back for that, and I said that means we just need to do some small core samplings at spots to see what's actually true. We may have to do that, as long as it's not a gas line.
That's great.
So,
The reason for the bleachers going on the concrete pad was because they wanted the concrete pads to hold the shades up, because they were mount the legs and things down in the hill.
exactly.
So now, these people coming back out, is that our time? We don't have to do another work change order.
I'm hoping it's going to be there. Well, once again, this is not a work. This has nothing to do with the contract for Camp Jordan. The shades, from what I understand, were totally separate.
They were an add-on.
Yes, but it's not actually part of the contract. We're going through somebody. We're going through another company. It's not part of the contractor / architect.
But we did a change order to pay for it,
For the total amount of the project, yes.
for the total amount of the shades, but we added the shades.
Right. Yeah, the project, yes.
But those didn't fall into the number of days or anything that the contractor had to get done. That was specifically for the building and designs.
So I thought it meant that it would not extend the completion date.
This is totally separate from that. Right?
Yeah, it's totally separate.
This is just part of the money that you had allocated for Camp Jordan, or that the change just dealt with the budget. It didn't deal with that contract, because the shades are totally separate from the contract. Oh, no, we haven't paid for them yet, no.
Did that contract including the sonar readings? For
No,
that?
because we had to do our own sonar readings, because we had no idea what was under the
Okay.
pavement there.
And we did those, and there was actually photographs for the first time and the second time.
So
To
they've
show-
got to
to
explain
show
why
those-
there's variance
To show the
at
discrepancy.
their expense.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have anything else? Councilmember Johnson?
Other than everything down there does look amazing. Shade structures look good. Everything's coming along. Real proud of all the progress that's been made.
Councilmember Witt?
Well, I have some different things to talk about. I want to thank the citizens of Eastridge for coming out to the cruise that Melissa Davenport did for the food pantry. Thank you for your support. I want to talk about the Citizens Police Academy. We've had 2 meetings. It's been very informative. We started on the 16th, and every Monday we're there from 6 to 9. I hope you will register for the spring when they take applications. We appreciate all the work. It has been extremely informative to people that don't really know what all they do. So we'll be visiting the 911 center, and we're enjoying that. The other thing is the Eastridge Complete Count Committee, the Census Committee. If you're interested in knowing more about this, if you will see me later, some of our members are here, they can talk to you. Our next meeting is going to be at the local coffee on October the 18th at 11 a.m. We'll be doing a Christmas float or something in the Christmas parade. So if you want to be involved in that, just let me know. And I also want to thank the American Legion Post 95. They invited me for their National POW MIA Recognition Day last Friday. It was very, very emotional for me, but they also gave certificates to me and Brian and Esther for supporting their golf tournament, so we did want to recognize the Post. Thank y'all.
Thank you. So you covered a few of mine. No, you're perfectly fine. So I did want to kind of revisit. We did have something about that chair over there. So
Yours, so you had to strike a few off.
yeah, exactly. And then probably you'll strike a few off too when I get done. TDOT, we had this past Tuesday at the community center, we had a public meeting. where TDOT provided a lot of detailed information, took questions about the I-75 and 24 interchange modifications. And I believe you can go out to TDOT's website, you can pull some of the information down. We've got the PowerPoint presentation and the link to a video about it, and we're going to get that uploaded and added to our city website, so it'll be easier to find and locate. So you can go out to our, hopefully soon, coming soon, out to our website to access that information. Andy covered the census update, appreciate that. Wanted to mention East Ridge football. They have a home game, the 27th, this Friday, 7:30. Then Saturday, Chattanooga Audubon Society is having their 75th anniversary. They have an open house Saturday the 28th, 10 to 4, North Sanctuary Road. It's free to the public. So if you have a chance and want to come by, that would be great to see the wildlife sanctuary over there. October the 4th, East Ridge City Library's Family Movie Night. Chris, do you know what movie they're showing?
This next one?
Yes.
I don't know, I haven't
Okay.
heard the description yet.
Okay.
You have a
Goosebumps.
description?
I don't.
Goosebumps.
I'm sorry?
It's the Goosebumps series.
Oh. Okay, thank you. And then also the library is doing the firefighter story time. That's going to be Tuesday, October the 15th, 11:30. So the firemen's come in, firefighters come in and do stories, read stories to children and things. So it's a great time to be had at the city library. October the 5th, Action Church is having a community clothes closet. Is that accurate?
It's free.
Free snacks and drinks, October the 5th, 12 p.m., 707 South Germantown Road, East Ridge. Wanted to mention that October the 18th is the homecoming for the football team, East Ridge. Homecoming football game is the 18th at 7:30. I wanted to also mention next meeting, October the 10th, I will not be here. So Vice Mayor Hilton will take over and lead that meeting. I wanted to mention that. I cannot change my work schedule. I'm going to hate, but I've only missed, I think, one, and this will be the second one I'll miss. What else do I have? One thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to start in October, and unfortunately it's going to be the first meeting that I'm going to miss, the meeting I'm going to miss. I want to start an East Ridge Food Pantry food drive here at the council meeting. So if anyone is willing and wanting to come by, we're going to have a barrel here, bring some non-perishable items. We're going to collect those and we're going to take those over to the food pantry, East Ridge Food Pantry. For every $10, 30 pounds of food can be purchased and distributed out free for the community. It is a great program. If you're not familiar with it, look it up, contact me, Andy, others on the council. It is a great program that benefits people in need. So we want to try to do, between now and the end of the year, a food drive to help stock their food pantry for them. Trying to think. I don't think I have anything else at this time. Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't cross off a single thing. That's a record for me.
Well,
First, I just want to ask everybody to keep Janet Middleton in your thoughts and prayers.
yes.
Her sister died unexpectedly this week. So she's off the rest of this week. She'll be back on Monday, but just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Let's see what else. Last week, a few of us went to a different TDOT meeting. We went to the one that was over at the high school dealing with the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation. And that meeting dealt more with the water quality permitting issues that they have to go through. They have a public meeting they have to go through, and they answer questions from the citizens. And it seemed like they were able to answer almost all the citizens' concerns that they had. And I think they have to publish the comments and things they have on their website. I'll find that out for you and let you know. But that was a very good meeting. Ani's been doing a great job on the census. She had a big meeting at Wally's last week, a packed room at the back, and she's very excited about it. She's ready to do a float for the Christmas parade. I know it's still September, but she's already talked about doing a float for the Christmas parade.
The Christmas parade is before Thanksgiving.
This is not in October, so that's good.
Yes.
Okay. Splash pad update. Andi had asked a little about where we are with splash pad right now and what's going on with that since you all passed the 5-year recreation plan, which was part of what we had to do to move forward. If you can give a quick update.
Yes, Mayor and Council and City Manager. Right now, we're just in a holding. For as far as I know, I've turned in the remainder of our paperwork to get the contract, and we should be getting that, I hope, within the next 2 weeks. That'll go to the city attorney for any review, as well as city manager, and then we sign it, send it back to TDOT, they sign it, and then hopefully by then we'll actually have a contract. So that means then we can actually spend money to do the design, the NEPA documents, and everything else that is involved with that. But once that happens, we can actually also start bidding the project, which means we can start getting the equipment purchased and going after contracts for the labor and everything else. After the contract's been fully executed, we can start making some plans, because in that way we kind of know about when we'll have this project at least broken ground. And we have a playground committee. We'll get with them when we get closer to time to go over about reclaiming some of the materials like the handprints. There's some actual markers that are around the track there, bricks, things like that we can actually incorporate into the design of the playground, the upcoming playground. As well as time capsule. They want to have a time capsule opening and also I guess when we have the grand opening, we'll have another burial of a time capsule. So once we get closer to time, I mean, our goal was hopefully by the end of school season next year to maybe do Memorial Day like we were hoping to this last year. Or worst case scenario would be sometime in the summertime, but our goal is to try to get it before Memorial Day this upcoming year. So they just don't like giving us dates because they never know when they're going to have something happen on their end with the state.
Right now, we're just waiting on the state to get back with us.
Pretty much.
Have any questions for us? Thank you. Brush pickup. You had asked about brush pickup today.
I did. During my meet the mayor this Saturday, one of the questions were about the leaf. Since we're getting, doesn't seem like it, but we're about to get into fall. We still have a 90 and 95 degree weather, but yeah, I was asked about the leaf pickup policies,
I said brush, I
procedures,
meant leaf, I'm
and
sorry, yes.
whether it's bagged, it's not bagged, if it's loose, when the schedule is, how often the schedule, so things like that.
Okay, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, the pickup goes from mid-November till February, and it's for loose leaves only, no bags, correct? And it basically sort of follows the brush truck scheduling. In other words, 1 week it'll be on the north side, the next week it'll be on the south side. We have 2 vehicles, so if they're behind, one may lag behind a little bit to catch up.
You said it follows the brush schedule?
Yes,
Okay.
is that correct?
That's correct.
And there's no bag pickup.
No bag pickup.
If it's bagged, it's setting.
Yes. Because there was a problem with the bags and having personnel that have to open the bags and then decomposition the bags, and it's from where it's the brush pit. So this time they're keeping them all loose.
Yeah, for the back truck.
Okay.
Got a couple more quick things. Kenny, real quick, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but we just talked about, you went down to that FEMA flood review thing down at City Hall, at Chattanooga City Hall, didn't you? Or
Yes.
DRC, I'm sorry.
Earlier this week, we had a FEMA review. The Army Corps of Engineers has selected several different, what they call firm panels, or which are the map panels throughout Hamilton County to do studies on. FEMA took the data from the Army Corps and then basically shared it with all of us, and it'll go through several more processes ending sometime around February of 2020. We don't have a large impact in this study. It had a little bit of the Frawley Road area, Frawley, Douglas, some of those areas over there, and there was actually showed a reduction in the floodplain. And then if you look throughout the county, there was a lot of areas in the county that also showed a reduction within the floodplain. They're going to continue to do this study, so more and more panels will actually be studied over the next several years to determine actually what our flood levels and stuff are, because they constantly change and move, and those maps they're pretty fluid as development happens and things occur. But it was a good meeting, and there will be roughly 4 to 6 more between now and February the 20th.
Thank you. Now I need to, if Stan would come up here, Interim Chief Stan Allen, if you come up and just talk a minute about what's going on with the school issue we talked about last week, please.
As you probably know, we've been having some problems with kids getting out of school, mostly the middle school. Coming up to this area, they've been fighting on the playground, they've been running through City Hall, they've been disruptive in the library and somewhat in the community center. What we've been doing is kind of saturating the area with officers. We will have anywhere from 3 to 5 officers in the area, including Lieutenant Usselton, including me, trying to get some control over it. We've been starting to see some success, they've figured out that this is not where they want to be because some of the consequences that may involve them. Two or three of our officers took it on themselves yesterday to go to the middle school and address 3 of the 4 lunch periods and tell them, this is the problem that we're having, and we don't want you to come up there if you're going to be fighting, if you're going to be disruptive. And yesterday, when school let out, the supervisor on day shift said that he saw about 10 kids walking up Thomas Avenue and none of them stopped. There were a few today, but we didn't have any issues. We didn't have anything come up today with them. We're going to stay on top of it and let them see us enough so that they move on to somewhere else.
Thank you. And of course, some of this, I think, stems from the fact that the middle school gets out an hour earlier than they did last year. So I've noticed like between 4:20 and 5 o'clock, a lot of, we're getting picked up out here in the parking lot by a parent or something. So they basically have an extra hour they have to kill before, a parent or something picks them up. But that's been what part of the problem has been.
Correct.
So I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on where we are in that moment. Does anybody have any questions on that? No? Thank you. Appreciate it, Steve. The last thing I have is I just want to, yes.
I'm through today.
Yes,
Go
you may,
ahead,
yes.
go. Okay.
Yes, thank you. The last thing I have, I just want to say happy early birthday to our mayor, tomorrow's his birthday. So, you can ask him how old he is later, maybe he'll share his cake. There's over 50 pieces back there, that's all I'll say. That's all.
Thank you. Old business? Isn't that ironic that it follows your birthday comment? Item A, ordinance number 1113.
In order to the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, to amend the fiscal year 2020 operating budget, ordinance number 1105, parks and solid waste expenditures.
This will be second and final reading. Ms. Wells?
Ms. Walls talked about it.
As you'll see, I made the changes where we took out the financing for the police cars. And it just has in there where we're paying for the resurfacing of the tennis courts. Then we have, in the sanitation department, purchasing of trucks. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 1113.
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 1113.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Witt and a second by Councilmember Chauncey. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item B, ordinance number 1114.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, to amend Title V Municipal Finance and Taxation of the East Ridge City Code by amending Chapter 7 titled Occupancy Tax on Hotels and Motels.
This also would be a second and final reading. And I believe, Mr. Mr. Litchford, did you send a correction for this?
I did, this is a right section here, and yeah, what we need to do is, we're just modifying in section 1 of the ordinance where it talks about the definition of bed and breakfast. I sent out an email to you all. Councilman Cagle caught this, and when I was speaking with him earlier today, he identified that Mark may want to look at this, and he was correct. We just need to fix the definition of bed and breakfast. What happened was 2 definitions got combined from the statute, which was 68-14-502. So basically, the way it would read is you've got all that first section on page 1 of the ordinance there. Go to the sentence that says, guest rooms shall be established and maintained distinct and separate from the innkeeper's quarters as defined in Tennessee Code annotated 68-14-502 is what that needs to say. Everything else we'll remove out of there. Essentially what you've got is, well, one of those trust but verifies. I got this from MTAS. Unfortunately, something had gotten combined under a bed and breakfast establishment and a bed and breakfast homestay. We just do what I said there and just take that sentence on the first page 1 of the ordinance, keep everything there, and then where the sentence says, guest rooms shall be established and maintained distinct and separate from the innkeeper's quarters as defined in Tennessee Code annotated 68-14-502, period. Everything else can be removed. Otherwise, this is ready to go.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 1114 with the
This modification.
modification.
I'll entertain a motion to approve with the modification.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Chauncey and a second from Vice Mayor Helton. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, sir. Last council meeting, I asked about the commercial thing. Attorney sent us an answer out on that, so okay, I'm satisfied with that. Now with the bed and breakfast deal, bed and breakfast actually adding the price of breakfast with the bedroom is the county health department going to regulate their kitchens like they do our restrooms. Who's going to do the inspections of said property? Or is any requirement?
So under any of these type of regulations that you're discussing, which goes back into some of what we've already adopted, as you say, short-term vacation rentals. Short-term vacation rentals, bed and breakfast, they all actually fall into a similar category, which require a fire and life safety inspection by us, along with multiple other inspections. If they have a true commercial kitchen and they are licensed to serve breakfast in that manner, then yes, then they would be, they would fall under the health department for that type of inspection.
So when they fill out a permit to have the bed and breakfast, then that gives them the license.
So I've stayed in several bed and breakfasts, and I've never seen one that had, that you went, like say, let's just use Mission Oaks, for instance. I don't see somebody turning that into a true bed and breakfast. Most bed and breakfasts that I've been in are fairly large, and you can walk in the front door and they're licensed by the health department, by the city. So they get multiple inspections. If it was an issue and it was something that was kind of a gray area, the health department may say, okay, this is truly not a commercial use. It's not a commercial kitchen. Will it fall under your fire and life safety inspection? But it'll just be a joint effort between the different governmental organizations to make sure that they meet any requirements that's set forth in state statute.
Do we know how many bed and breakfasts is already advertised in East Ridge, or how many short-term vacation rentals are already being advertised?
8
8 bed and breakfasts.
short-term vacation rentals.
All right, how many bed and breakfasts?
So if you're talking about a site, which is Airbnb, like let's just use that trade name, which Airbnb stands for bed and breakfast, that's still can be a single family dwelling that only houses one person. So an Airbnb could be a 1-bedroom, 1-bath studio, and it's not truly a bed and breakfast. That's just the trade name that they use. I'm not aware of any bed and breakfasts that are operating out here.
I know when we were discussing, apartment complex over there on Fountain Avenue, it brought up that there's a big breakfast next door to it, a big gray house or somewhere right in there.
And I'm not aware of that one being advertised. I am aware of that being advertised, but not as a true bed and breakfast. As a short-term vacation rental, and I believe that's on our list. I think there's 8 that we have, that we've verified through different sites just by searching and recognition. And there's a letter that goes out and explains to them the process. They have to provide certain documentation. The documentation basically states, were you in existence prior to the passing of the city ordinance? The state statute allowed a legally non-conforming clause. That legally non-conforming clause, or grandfather clause as some calls it, still allows it in operation in a R1 zone, a R2 zone, or RT1 zone, providing that they were advertising, had a lease agreement, or operating prior to the adoption of our ordinance.
And that was from state law.
And that was how it was.
That's correct.
So there's a list of requirements that they have to do.
Okay, so we enforce those requirements.
Any other questions?
Uh,
Anyone else? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Helton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle, Councilmember Chapel.
Thanks, girl, I'm not that bad.
I told you I can't be jaded. Councilmember Cagle.
I'm against the short-term vacation rentals. I want to go ahead and vote no, since we're going to actually be in control of it. I mean, yes, since we're going to actually be in control of enforcing the, yes.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yes.
Councilmember Webb.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item C, ordinance number 1115.
An ordinance of the City Council for the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, approving amendments to Ordinance 481, zoning ordinance for the City of East Ridge, Article 5, setbacks.
This will be second and final reading. Assistant City Manager.
Mayor and Council, I'll make sure I don't read the same one twice this week. What we're trying to do is make an amendment to ordinance 481 as it relates to the setback requirements along commercial corridors, primarily the Ringo Road, Highway 41 corridor, or any planned use development. The reason for that is older traditional zoning hasn't changed. When our zoning ordinance, I believe, was adopted sometime in the mid-late 1980s, and Steve Leach actually helped write some of that. He was, I believe, the chairman of the regional planning agency at the time, or working his way up through chairman. So a lot of those are still regulations from the early to mid 1980s. We are undertaking several projects throughout the city on becoming more pedestrian friendly. How can we allow people to get out, walk around, shop, enjoy themselves without having to drive from point A to point B? What this will do, this will actually allow us to set businesses closer to the right-of-way, provide for rear parking and side parking, that create that more pedestrian-friendly atmosphere. We have 2 developments already that's wanting to do it. They came even through the planning commission, and we knew that's kind of the direction that they were going. They were going that direction with, after speaking with us and kind of what we thought the vision was moving forward. And at the end of the day, we have chances right now to change ordinances that's been on the books for 20 to 30 years and longer. That will really make a difference 20, 30, 40 years from now. It's not something that you're going to see overnight. Now, I can tell you, if it passes, you will see 2, and they'll start on 1 within 10 days. They're waiting to dig footers as we speak. And that'll be Chimneys. That'll be one of the first ones that moves that close to the roadway. It's a great opportunity for us to move things up and get things more uniform. Currently, there's been variances granted over time, so you'll see some buildings sit back 25 feet, some are 15, some are 10, and this will just give a minimum requirement that they can be, not a maximum requirement. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 1115.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Chauncey and a second by Vice Mayor Hilton. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Pauls.
Vice Mayor Helton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Move into new business. Item A, ordinance number 1116.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, to amend ordinance number 899, which amended ordinance number 481, entitled the East Ridge Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, Schedule of District Regulations, C4 Planned Commerce Center District, to amend the maximum height limitations.
Again, Mayor and Council, this goes along with the setback requirement. This is actually on height. This was done in 2011 for C1 general commercial, C1 commercial tourism and C2 general commercial. This amendment would change the language for C4 Planned Commerce Center District to make the regulations consistent to where no building shall exceed 72 feet in height with a parapet not to exceed 48 inches.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 1116.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1116.
I second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Hilton and a second by Councilmember Witt. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Helton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Before we move on, I would like to mention just a few things. And if you think about it, over the last 4 or 5 years, we started with the sign ordinance. We moved on with the architectural design standards. We're looking at setbacks. We're building sidewalks that are in design. I mean, so there's a lot of things that started 5 years ago that you're actually going to start seeing something happen within the next 6 months. And then 5 years from now, you'll see everything that we've been doing up until that point. And I think if we continue down that road and adequately plan for the future is very bright.
I agree. Item B, ordinance number 1117.
In order to change the time of city council meetings.
Nice short caption, you like that? See it? As I mentioned at the 6 o'clock work session, this is an ordinance we talked about before about rearranging how the council is doing a couple things. Right now, we do the work session at 6 o'clock.
You got something that way?
Yeah. We have a work session that starts at 6 o'clock, and when it's over, we have a break, and then we start the council meeting at 6:30. And it gets sort of confusing trying to talk about an item that on the work session that's coming up for second reading when you haven't even had the first reading of the item yet. And it just gets very, very confusing trying to go back and forth with that. And in order to streamline the meetings and to be able to make it more efficient, as you know, as I said, I talked to you all about this 2 weeks ago. We have an ordinance here that changes the time of the council meeting from 6:30 to 6 o'clock. And that's what the main purpose of the ordinance is. And what Mayor and I had talked about doing with this, that's why I gave you these copies, and I have one copy I'll put down there if somebody wants to see it. Basically, what we're going to do is start the meeting at 6, and then when we get through with new business, there'll be an item on there for new business that'll say, if you look at these samples that we gave you, it's basically today's agenda. But if you go to the very end, it says item H, it says discussion of tentative agenda items for the October 10th, 2019 council meeting. And then basically the attachment that would be with that item is basically the old and new business that we have so far for the next meeting, which is what we did go over already today in the work session. But now when you go over it now, you'll talk about the ordinance dealing with maximum height limitation. And the mayor will probably say, this is the ordinance we just finished talking about, we just passed, and it's on for second reading next time. Then you'll go to the ordinance about the council meeting, we just discussed that. Then we have any additional questions they didn't talk about a minute ago. That'll be on the next meeting, and then you'll start the new business, just talking about those items. And it's just a lot smoother because you don't have to explain everything twice. If there are major items that the council needs to dive into and needs to discuss, either A, it can be done in this manner, just like it was going to be done before at 6, it can be done at the end of the meeting, or if it's something that's very large, there's discretion to have a separate work session for those types of items.
For special call meeting.
Yes. Does that make sense how the agenda sort of flows there? It's just the very last thing that's on it.
We discussed that. It was similar to the sign ordinance. If you remember when we were in development stages of the sign ordinance, I think we had 2 meetings just to kind of go through each one of them, because some of the things that were brought to our attention was what we were going to do with temporary signage as it relates to civic organizations and nonprofit. And that was a large conversation out of the sign ordinance. So when things like that come up, and there's obviously it's going to take a lot of time and effort for everybody, and trying to get everybody on the same page, then having those work sessions will just be very beneficial to make sure that we all know exactly what we're pushing forward.
Right, and again, this would be the last item of any agenda that we have. So it's 8, we took this agenda and we made the example of it. So we added H, which is discussion of the tentative agenda, and then city manager then will have the insert or the addition attachment for the tentative agenda. And this puts it at the end of it. So we've had situations where our work agenda has ran over. We've had to actually pause it, go into our regular session, and then resume the work agenda afterwards. So we'll eliminate that. Hopefully we won't have any long work sessions, but yes, sir. Councilman Cagle, you had a
If I may,
question?
real quick,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. One thing that I noticed that you all have started doing is also you have the addition of agenda memos for each of the items. So when you read through the agenda, it sort of explains what the item is on here, and that might have cut out some time from those previous work
Correct.
sessions that you had before, because before you just have an item and had no idea why it was on, what the purpose
And a lot of times it was
That's why we
covered.
do those agenda memos.
Right, and a lot of times it was covered in the work session and then recovered again in the regular session.
Okay, here it's item 8, it says discussion of tentative agenda for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So here's the agenda. There on the bottom says we can move up anything. Are we going to be allowed to move it up after we change it? Because here it just says discussion, it does not say we can vote.
Well, number one, you really shouldn't have been voting on the items on the work session agenda anyway. But that's another long story, because each one of your work sessions is technically a special meeting. So anytime you have a special meeting, you're supposed to go exactly by what's on the agenda and make no changes at all by adding things to the agenda. You could always make a vote to move it up, but you can't add other things. The purpose of having it as a discussion at the end is you're basically here saying, hey guys, here's what we have coming up in 2 weeks, just to put it on your radar. So y'all can be looking into it, you can be asking us questions, and letting us know some things that come up, that are coming up for it. To answer your other question about items that in the past were moved up, when I first started, I had a discussion with the mayor about that. Just the policy, because it had been done that way, was that even if we knew something needed to be on that Thursday night agenda, it was still put on the work session agenda, and during the work session, you all brought it up. And one thing we mentioned, I guess it was about 2 months ago, that if we know there's something that needs to be on the next agenda, we just need to put it on the agenda. We don't, by hamstringing us for a 3-week delay, having to wait to have something planned out, put on the agenda, and then go forward. Sometimes, life goes faster than that for things that we're trying to do or things we're trying to get done. So, we've been trying to get the agendas out on Monday to give you all time to look at it. And the mayor talked about the fact of now if we have something that needs to be added to that agenda, we send that out as a separate addendum to go with the agenda to make sure you have all the information before the meeting on those items as well.
It's not going to show up on the discussion list. If it's sent out after we get our packet.
Correct. It could be.
So that it's moving it up there to vote on
Could be. Yes, and then when we got to this point, because that, notice it just says tentative agenda.
it. Already there.
So I think, let me see if I've got it. So if something comes up that is an emergency, and we're not going to just put things on the agenda or move things up just to move things up. It's going to be in a situation where we're in a deadline or we have a commitment we have to meet. or there's an oversight of something. But I think in that case, we're talking about an agenda item that would be added to the regular council session,
Right.
and not to the discussion item.
No, but what he's saying is, let's say, for instance, I wanted to give Diane authority to do something. I don't know, just whatever it is. I might have had it on the discussion agenda that went out on Monday. But on Tuesday, we might say, hey, that really needs to be on the regular agenda. So we may send out an amendment, an addendum to the agenda that goes out. So it'd be on the regular agenda at that point. But since everything else went out, it's still going to show under the tentative for later. But that's just tentative anyway. When we get to that point, we would just say, okay, well, y'all see item C on tentative, we've already discussed that during the regular meeting, so you just keep going. Does that make sense? Trying to streamline it and make it simple.
So we've had a little bit of discussion, but I'm going to go back and ask for a motion for ordinance number 1117.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1117.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Hilton and a second by Councilmember Witt to approve ordinance number 1117. I will now ask again for any discussion. Any additional discussion?
For clarification, ordinance 1-101, the city council shall hold 2 regular meetings per month as follows. Our city charter says we only have to hold 1. So,
What's your question?
is this one override the city charter?
The city charter says you may hold 1. You
At
can always
least-
hold more.
It says must hold at least one.
At least 1. Well, then you can always hold more. And per question, if I real quick, that Councilman Cagle did bring up earlier, so you'll have it for the next meeting. Remember I talked about in the work session, the fact that we'll have to rescind the resolution that set up the work meeting, the work session agenda to begin with. If you want to hand one of those down to Vice Mayor Hamilton. These are just for you two to have, and for you two to have, just to be able to read it for the next meeting.
Already have it. This will be up for the second reading in the next meeting and then rescinding the resolution to the next meeting. So if this all is passed, then it will then be October the 24th will be the new agenda format.
Correct.
Any other questions?
In a nutshell, all we did was move up the meeting to 6 o'clock and discuss what's going to happen in 2 weeks at the end of the meeting.
All it is
It's
just
just
a
mechanics.
format change. Exactly. If no other discussion, roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item C, Resolution 2984.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the City of East Ridge to participate in the Public Entity Partners James L. Richardson Driver Safety Grant Program.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes, Mayor and Council, the grant, this one and the following one, were formerly called the TML grants. They changed their name to the Public Entity Partners. Anyway, what the driver's safety grant is about is we can do a number of things. One is hold driver safety courses for anyone that drives a city vehicle. We can do driver's license checks, and we can also get equipment that can help us with our vehicles. Any kind of purchase like that, those are 50-50, but if it's a driver's license check, it's 100%. And we have applied for these grants before and received them.
Thank you, ma'am. Entertain a motion for Resolution 2984.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2984.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Witt and a second by Councilmember Chauncey. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, sir. Do we order all new vehicles with backup cameras now? I know our garbage truck
garbage truck had it, the last two codes vehicles had it, the van I ordered for animal control a year or so ago had it. So pretty much every vehicle that I'm aware of has been ordered.
Where do you
It's
those
standard.
cars?
That, I'll check with those. Should be standard.
But what we can do is we buy the,
The new Chargers have the backup cameras integrated. I'm not sure on the Explorers, I'm 90% sure.
So my Explorer does have, and it's a year older, so it should.
That's what I was fixing to recommend, we don't need to purchase any more new vehicles without.
Correct.
So,
It was kind of actually odd, the codes vehicles, which was surprising, came with Bluetooth, backup camera, everything, but manual windows. The oddest thing ever. Once I seen the electronics package, I was like, okay, it's pretty much got everything on it, and then it had manual windows. I was shocked.
but any vehicles that we still have that are on our fleet, we can buy the backup cameras for. And then when they break down, of course, we'll just buy new ones until we change our fleet over to backup cameras.
Any other questions? Yes, very good question. Do we get any benefit from insurance if we have completely outfitted backup cameras and safety equipment? Do you
I'm not
know?
aware of an insurance benefit, however, it's,
Hopefully less accidents.
yes,
Great.
that's where I was going.
Any,
On your insurance package?
yeah, any vehicle that is, where it's obstructed, like animal control vehicles and things like that, it's very helpful to have a backup camera.
I use mine all the time.
So do I.
Okay, great. Is there a cap on this?
I believe it's only about $4,000. And like I said, most of the stuff is 50/50, and it just depends on what tier that we fall under. But
Okay, I'm just curious. If there's a cap. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item number D, Resolution 2985.
Resolution of City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the City of East Ridge to participate in the Public Entity Partners Property Conservation Matching Grant for fiscal year 2020.
yes, Mayor and Council, again, this used to be a TML grant, property conservation. And what we are going to purchase with this will be video camera system for the playground, which will have the playground and the splash pad, as well as the area of the community center. And we're looking, I think the last time we had a quote on it was about $8,000. And I believe that's a 50/50 grant as well.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 2985.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2985.
Second.
Who do we get? Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Witt and a second by Councilmember Chauncey. Do you have any discussion?
Yes, sir, I think we need to put some down at the park where they put all those new Coca-Cola sheets in there.
We have one camera, I believe, already. I don't know if it's up and operational, correct?
On the bathrooms itself?
No, I know we have a camera that we purchased before. I've seen it, but I don't know if it's been installed and it's up and operational already.
We have one of our traffic sheets.
That I recall, but nowhere else. We're working with an alarm company on several different things. One is the automated locks where they lock at a certain time, they open at a certain time, so it don't take the manpower. That's also the same company that generally installs our security cameras, so we can look into that. Because we've already had some, some small, minor things happen, even though they're brand new. But with them not being secured behind a fence location and accessed pretty much 24 hours a day, they're subject to vandalism.
Would there be a infrastructure backbone that has to be also installed with these cameras? Or is this including that, like Wi-Fi or wiring? Or do we know at this point?
So Most of these cameras are used, that we've used in the past. They can be ran through a cell unit.
Cellular?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're also looking at different Wi-Fi packages for the park as part of sponsorship for park-wide Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Yeah, anything that protects our property, so video cameras down in the, where you're talking about where the Coke machines can be installed, playground, buildings, anything that protects the property. And I believe we have an option about $8,000, because again, it depends on the tier that we are allowed, and the grant opens October the 7th, so that's when we'll find out what tier we are.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Helton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item E, resolution number 2986. A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, for the city to participate in the annual Tennessee River Rescue event.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'm going to invite Larry Hark. He is our representative for the Tennessee River Rescue. He's been doing it for a number of years, and each year he comes and requests manpower such as a reserve officer, safety officer. We use the sanitation supervisor to help with the building, so we have a restroom that we can use, as well as hauling equipment when we get bigger items like tires and the shopping carts, which we've pulled many a shopping cart out of Spring Creek. So what we're going to do right now is, if there's anything that I've missed, it's going to be next Saturday, October the 5th, from 9 to 1.
9 to 1.
And anything else that you like to add?
Yeah, overlooked that on my communications with council. I had that here in my notes and I missed it. I apologize, but please tell us all about it and appreciate everything that you do for this.
I'm Larry Clark. I live at 906 Mount Belvoir Drive. And council members and mayor and city manager, appreciate all the work that the city of East Ridge does to help the Tennessee River Rescue there at Spring Creek. We've been working there since 2007 on a section from Springville Park down below the old city garage property there. And we've removed 479 tires from that region of Spring Creek. We've removed 53 shopping carts, and we've removed 31,000 pounds of solid waste, trash, plastic, styrofoam. And to get that much weight out of styrofoam and plastic, that's a lot of materials. But we've been successful with our volunteers in removing that kind of material from Spring Creek. We have a beautiful water resource in Spring Creek. And so this effort to clean it up once a year is really produced some results. And this year we're looking for good results. We've got people coming from Nashville, from Dalton, Girls Leadership Academy, the East Ridge ROTC. Every year has just been fantastic. Boy Scout Troop 74. We've just got a lot of good volunteers. We've had over 750 volunteers that have worked on cleaning up Spring Creek since we started keeping records in 2007. And so this year should be good. Last year we had a problem with mosquitoes. We had floodwaters up until 2 days before the river rescue, and then it turned off like 85 degrees that day, and so it just created optimum conditions for mosquitoes, and so we had to terminate the river rescue last year at about 11 o'clock because our volunteers were just getting eaten up by mosquitoes. And some of you all were there at the river rescue, and you all know what we went through. But this year we've been down there, and the mosquitoes are not as prolific. We've always had mosquitoes because we're down by the water and in the floodplain zone. But this year doesn't look that bad. So, and Amanda Amanda has gotten some additional bug spray for us, and so we're looking to have a very good river rescue, and we hope that you commissioners, if you council members, if you all have opportunity to come, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, October the 5th, and just look forward to seeing you, and thank you so much for the support that the city provides, because we just couldn't do it without you all. You all have been in it for 31 years. This is the 31st anniversary of the River Rescue, and so East Ridge has supported this just tremendously through all these years, and we appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
And another way that we help support is through grant funding. We received the Tennessee American Water grant earlier this year for $2,000, and we're using some of that money for the Spring Creek cleanup, as well as some efforts to maybe do some bank stabilization down at the park. So we'd like to contribute that way as well. But also where we meet will be behind Park Ridge East Hospital, down by the sanitation and animal control area.
Right, Yale Street behind Park Ridge East.
Yes.
Is there somewhere where people need to go if they want to sign up and volunteer? Or just show up?
Come the day of the river rescue, just show up. We'll have registration forms that give people gloves and trash bags and mechanical grabbers that they can reach down and pick up the trash. And so just show up and we'll register you. And everyone that participates receives a T-shirt. And we have some very beautiful T-shirt this year that the Tennessee Aquarium graphic artist designed with sturgeons on them, and it's going to be a very attractive shirt, so it'll be in high demand.
Awesome, awesome.
And we do provide water and snacks for volunteers too, so we will make sure you're hydrated.
Councilmember
I
Cagle.
would like to ask, I was going to speak on the mosquito behalf, because I remember that from last year.
Yeah.
We shut our mosquito spraying machine down, and we could call the county, get them to come out here and spray, but I don't know if the county still sprays or not. And I was wondering if we could find out, and then maybe get them to come out here late Friday evening, go down there along the creek bank, go down in there on our properties, spray along that creek bank, and probably help the mosquito situation, because if we get any rain, it's going to bring the mosquitoes out between now and next.
Councilman Cagle, unfortunately, they do not.
They don't?
You have to get a private company to do that. And from what I was told when we did some research on this a few years back, they said that nowadays the spray doesn't really help as much. It's having to get to the stagnant water that's causing the mosquitoes in order to treat that water, either by, if it's pots or barrels or whatever, and turn that over to let it, the groundwater in the ground soak it in. But unfortunately, no, they do not do the spray. So, but we have plenty of bug spray, and like Mr. Clark said, we've got all the other types of equipment, but we're hoping that it's not going to be near as bad as last year.
The weather forecast is it's going to be dry
Yeah.
all through next Saturday, so just we'll get Brother
Hot
Danny
and dry.
to pray for that too.
I know back when we sprayed, I used to get dumps, go around behind all that neighborhood down on the creek. It's sticky at the edge of the creek, slide 2 or 3 dumps over, and then when they dissolve it, it's fell down and keep the water saturated. Big holding ponds down there too, also back up into the big properties of this. They used to go in there and take the dumps, so.
We entertain a motion for resolution 2986.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2986.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Witt and a second by Vice Mayor Helton. Do we have any other discussion? Roll call, Ms. Clausen.
Vice Mayor Helton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, appreciate it.
Item F, resolution 2987.
Resolution of support and commitment of the City of East Ridge to apply for fiscal year 2019 Tennessee Department of Transportation Transportation Alternatives Program Grant, Ringo Road Pedestrian Improvement Project, Phase 5.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we participate, and as you know, we have grants right now for multimodal. It goes from McBrien Road east to Kingwood Drive. This would take it going, west to, I got my directions backwards. We're going east this time with this grant. It goes from McBrien Road to approximately Swope Drive with the 5 to 6 foot sidewalks on the north side and the 10 to 12 foot multimodal on the south side. Just continuing our project. The goal is to have sidewalks on both sides from the tunnels all the way down to the other side of the interstate.
Entertain a motion to approve resolution 2987.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2987.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Hilton and a second by Councilmember Witt. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, sir. So this is going to cost us 20% of $1 billion, with an additional possible $250,000. That's going to end up costing us $450,000.
Actually, with the Transportation Alternatives Grant, Councilman, it's actually the entity, the city, would pay for every phase up until construction. And then the construction is the 80-20 match.
So that's a possible $250,000 out of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So it just depends on if we have to purchase more right of way and things like that. So
So is that chargeable back to Board of Region?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
and that's what we're doing with the other grant as well. Our match that we provide goes back to the Board of Region.
And Councilman Cagle, just so you know, so far the first multimodal was awarded in June of 15. That was for $997,000 and change. The first TAP that we received was awarded in June of 2016. That was for $653,000 and change. And then the second TAP grant we were awarded was in July of 2017, and that was for $998,000. Those last two I mentioned are 80-20 matches. The first one, the multimodal, is 95-5. So obviously, we'd much rather get multimodals, but it's hard to get. You can get extra TAP grants, but it's hard to get extra multimodals. I know we're trying, but usually you have to have one done before you get to the next one, or it seems that way. So.
But with everything combined together, it kind of helps us in a way because we're using the 95-5 part that we would have paid 100% ourselves through the way that they allowed us to combine the grant. And we're hoping if we do continue to get more grants, multimodal and in the Transportation Alternative Program grants, that they will allow us to just pile them on like we're doing now.
Any other discussion, council? Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey,
Yes.
Councilmember Witt,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Item G.
Item G is an appeal of a housing commission decision. Make sure I got the dates right here. Planning Commission passed an order on September 9th in connection with property at 1317 Pleasant Street. That decision by the Planning Commission was to demolish the property at 1317, and that decision has been appealed. Mr. Mike Auguster, on behalf of the property owners, Memphis Premium Trust, filed a timely appeal, and pursuant to Title 13 of the City Code, all appeals from the Housing Commission go before the City Council on a de novo review, meaning it's a new review. And so this property has a little bit of a ownership interesting history in that there was a Lloyd Johnson. There was a Lloyd Johnson that at least was the title owner up through what we understood to be up through last year in November, a gentleman by the name of William Phillips was purported to have purchased this property for $12,900. Mr. Phillips actually showed up at the meetings 4 or 5 times, give or take. I mean, he showed up from January till, I guess, June, or maybe July, but Mr. Phillips was nowhere to be found. When we did a little bit more digging on September 9th, the day of the decision, it was discovered that this property, in fact, went through a back tax sale on the first Thursday of June of this year, in 2019, at which time the winning bid was a company of Memphis Premium Trust. And Memphis Premium Trust was the winning bidder at that for about $20,000 on this property. And since that time, Memphis Premium Trust has filed a motion in the Chancery Court to have the redemption period reduced. A redemption period in a back tax sale under Tennessee law allows the delinquent taxpayer a 1-year redemption period to recapture the land if it's sold to back tax sale. They're given a 1-year period of redemption to pay all the taxes and fees and other costs that are outstanding relative to the property, and then that property owner is entitled to get their property back. Under state law back in 2014, Governor Haslam passed or signed into an amendment to the law that allowed for property that's deemed to be abandoned for a shorter redemption period, which is essentially works out to be a 90-day period, so we'll say a 3-month period. Memphis Premium Trust has in fact filed that motion with the Chancery Court asking that the redemption period be reduced to 90 days on the basis that it is an abandoned property. And I believe the owners of the Memphis Premium Trust have communicated with Mike Howell and other members of the City Code Enforcement Department expressing the new property owner's desire to modify and resolve the issues of this property. That's what I know so far. Mr. Guster's here. If he wants to come, if you want to come up, Mr. Guster. Mr. Custer, is there anything I missed so far, just as a background standpoint?
No, I don't think so. So essentially, this property ended up being condemned. Went through several different housing commission meetings. Time extensions were given, and a lot of those extensions that were given were based on substantial improvement form. We felt like the amount of construction that was going to be done exceeded the 50% of the value of the property, which was going to require it to be elevated to 1 foot above base flood. So that's where a lot of that timing went back and forth and discussion. Finally, the substantial improvement form was submitted. It didn't appear to be valid. We couldn't get a contractor to basically certify it. And so that drug on, took some time. But we had a great conversation with Mr. Guster over the last few days, and we think we're going to be able to get the problem solved.
It's really a great conversation I had in the last few days, so I feel glad to hear that.
Just for the record, if you'll give us your name.
Yeah, Mike Guster, on behalf of Memphis Premium Trust.
Thank you.
Mr. Guster, can you provide some of the details of the conversation that you've had with code enforcement or that the property owners have had with them?
Yes, pretty much what it boils down to, there's a few things here. The main point is essentially that motion to reduce the redemption period, which has effectively 2 parts to it. One is a 30-day after the order confirming sale component. A second part of the statute is a 60-day inspection period, 2 months, that's what the statute says, where an inspector needs to come, any individual essentially, 3 different times at different parts of the day. Memphis Premium has already done that, and so that motion was filed to reduce that redemption period. That hearing is scheduled for October the 7th in front of Chancellor Fleener, Hamilton County Chancery Court. 2 things to that right there. One, to the motion that was filed on behalf of Memphis Premium Trust, we've attached a lot of photographs of the property itself. And that's a part of the record as of now down at Hamilton County Chancery Court. Second point I'm going to take a quick aside. I'm also talking with Sarah Stageberg, great individual, really, really good, very good. She was very, very helpful. And also I want to give credit to where it's due here for Mark digging up us, finding us out there. Thank you very much for that, because my hair is still on fire trying to get down here to file something. So I'm very appreciative of that. And that led to, which is now the second point, the conversation that we've had essentially over the last few days to try to get this thing up to snuff. So very, very appreciative of that. I believe we're talking late last evening with Mr. Lynchford, talking earlier this week with other city officials, Mike, Hal, everybody, just trying to really, I don't want to say get back on board, just get on board and move this thing forward. The city attorney and his office have been invited to come to the hearing October the 7th at 1:30 p.m. to essentially try to push forward evidence of abandonment, which is what the statute calls for. Of course, our position is that we believe the property is vacant or abandoned, vacant and abandoned, however you look at it in the statute. And I believe with the city of East Ridge's help, we're going to be able to push that forward, reduce the redemption period. Memphis Prem Trust is already trying, I have conversations with you guys already about trying to get some proper building, the more it's in my head right now, permits, I'm sorry, to go ahead and try to get the property worked on. And there's another property here, which is aside from this, I believe 1800 Tombras, Memphis Prem also recently bought. And yesterday, Sarah dismissed a code enforcement action against them because they brought that property up. So they're trying to move forward. Brief background to them. They've done this before in Shelby County with a lot of the dilapidated property over there. They're more well known there. This is their second year coming into this area. I think that's part of the reason for some of the maybe lack of communication that's going on, because folks just aren't used to us here. As I said before, definitely thanks to Mark to get something to them, and then it got down the line and we were able to get over here pretty quickly to get something fired and hammered up so that we can start moving this thing forward and stop, I guess I use the word, this chaos that's going on, because we need to make progress to start moving forward on the property.
We now have an adequate contact, so anything that comes up as Memphis Premium Trust, we know where to start. So it may not even make it to sometimes the Housing Commission or the AHO, because we can get those cases addressed because we have a contact with Mr. Guster now. So,
I mean, it'll be fun on Monday with Mr. Phillips and whoever shows up. That'll be interesting in Chancery Court. So we'll see what happens on that one.
I'll open it up and ask the council, do you have any questions?
We have here is Mr. Custer recommending us, and I'm not putting word in your mouth, to grant him the appeal that he's asking for.
yes, I believe he's looking for enough time to get through this court, because right now you're looking at the owners and then 3 or 4 individuals that claim to have some sort of ownership that unfortunately the Housing Commission has been dealing with for 7 or 8 months, telling them what to do and how to get there. When now we actually have a group of people moving in the right direction. And at the end of the day, this still could end up being a demolition. And it could end up being, a substantial improvement where the property is elevated and the value is increased. So we don't know exactly what direction it's going to go, but we know that it now can go in a direction.
There's a lot of wheel spinning going on. I don't want to speak for the Housing Commission, but I think there's just a lot of just burning night oil. I mean, just a lot of conversations, which obviously, we're appreciative of. But, we're not here to talk, we're here to walk. So I think we're walking relatively fast compared to others. So that's what Memphis Prem Trust is trying to do, is get the property, move it forward. There you go. It's dilapidated to rehab.
Do we know if there's any outstanding municipal liens
There are.
currently on?
Excuse me, there are, Councilman Chauncey. Those liens can actually be satisfied by the excess proceeds. We believe there's excess proceeds relative to the back tax sale. The liens amount to around $4,600, and we got that figure yesterday from Ms. Mahoney. The sale price at the back tax sale was around $20,000, I think $20,250 or $230, so $20,000. It is believed that the total amount of the property taxes was somewhere around probably $28,000 to $3,000. So there was an excess proceeds somewhere in the neighborhood of around $17,000. We have made calls up to the Chancery Court tax division to find out what those excess proceeds are. To the extent there are, the city will file a motion for recovery of those liens out of those excess proceeds. It really makes no difference who owns the property in our standpoint, because if Memphis Trust is the owner and there's no redemption of it, they pay their money, they're out. If whoever was a prior owner, if it is Lloyd Johnson or his heirs, or this William Phillips perhaps, they have to pay the amount to cover all liens and taxes and amounts owed. So we're still going to get paid one way or the other. So the city will get paid out of those one way or another, out of the net proceeds of the excess or through a redemption. I would add one thing. The back tax sale was in June. I believe I understand a deed was recorded in July of this year. The notice for the Housing Commission went out sometime in August for the upcoming September 9 hearing before the Housing Commission. Memphis Trust did not get that. We did not acknowledge that they had purchased it at the time. It would, from a procedural standpoint, my recommendation would be give them an opportunity to get the court hearing finalized on October 7th and work with Memphis to allow them an opportunity. Because you might be opening up the door for Memphis to say, we didn't get an opportunity to go before the Housing Commission. The Housing Commission may have made the same ruling. We don't know that, but that's what the trust company would say is, we weren't there at the Housing Commission because we didn't get notice of it, and we were the owners as of June 4th or June, whatever it was, the sale. So it's a little dicey, but I think what I'm hearing Mr. Custer say, not necessarily to grant the appeal in total, but rather modify it to maybe extend the demo time for a period of time to allow the court proceedings to play out. If they get the redemption period cut short, then essentially they'll have it by October, 90 days beyond June. And so at that point, they'll either decide to come forward and demolish it, or the city will say, if you don't fix it, we're demolishing it. And so we're kind of giving basically a 3 to 4 week period of stay to give Memphis Premium Trust an opportunity to see what they want to do with the property, since they are the new owners as of June of this year.
And didn't receive the notice.
They didn't. Now, they did receive the notice of September 9, but that was the final decision by the Housing Commission, which was to demolish. That's what triggered the appeal by Mr. Guster. And so my recommendation would be modify the Housing Commission order to extend it and maybe require them to go back to the Housing Commission on whatever the 1st November.
First November meeting.
So they'll have an answer on the motion at the Chancery Court, and I think they'll get either Mr. Guster or another representative to come in and identify what they intend to do with this property.
And I believe you know the statute, there's 2 points there. One is I believe Mr. Pritchard started talking to Mr. Howell and others about essentially permitting and getting things built up. There's already construction material on site, and we're just working through the process there. The second point is that the statute allows, I think I can say this fairly, sort of a worst case scenario. The statute allows to be subsection E under that statute, if I remember correctly, for reasonable repairs to be made on the property. I think the argument would be made that, let's just say everything blows up and doesn't get shortened. Probably Memphis Prim Trust will be working with the city of East Ridge to try to make reasonable repairs, saying that the judge, okay, I'm not gonna shorten it down to that 90-day period. It's gonna end up being a year, but they're gonna have to work anyway with East Ridge to try to make things work out, and use that section that the year would pass, and it would be the same thing. The question really becomes, is it gonna be 9 months earlier or 9 months later? Pretty much the same stuff's gonna be done under either one of those analyses, I think.
That's correct.
I'd like to recognize Earl Wilson. He is a Housing Commission member. If he has something that he'd like to come forward and cover.
Earl Wilson, Housing Commission. One of the questions that
commission has is, what, if they obtain this property, what are their ultimate goals? Is this gonna be a house they're going to rent, they're going to sell? You know, what's gonna be the purpose of it? You know, our citizens have a lot of concern right now about the amount of rental property we have in our city. We're well above, 50% right now. And also, they're already down there working on the house. How can they be working on the house without any valid permits?
They can be.
They can't? Okay. There's somebody ripped the windows out, they tore cabinets out of the place, they removed our signs off the windows that we had posted there. So has someone stepped out of bounds here and jumping the gun and taking advantage of the city? And if so, then we need to place a cease and desist order on anybody stepping on that property and doing any work till all this gets resolved in the courts.
And this is also another individual that's not associated with Memphis Premium Trust.
Right.
That was,
But in one
needed
of the,
some paperwork.
in one of the past notes that we have from the Housing Commission is Mr. Phillips represented himself as a partner of Memphis Trust. I've stumbled across it in some of the past notes when I was, researching this today. So is he misrepresenting himself in a fraudulent manner to be a part of Memphis Trust?
And I believe we, I know Mr. Mark was there too as well, and we did call Memphis Prim Trust, and he is not. Everyone was there.
He goes by multiple names. We've got him as William Phillips, Marty Phillips, William Phillips III. Apparently, he doesn't know which day or what name he's going to use when he's been in here. And this has went on now since last September. We've been dealing with this for a year, and we've been very generous. We've went out of our way to help him. Chairman Winters offered some guidance and counsel about getting the tax structure changed to try to help him. The substantial improvement form that it took us, 6 months to get filled out, he's within $451 of being over the 50% amount. Well, $451 is for them to use pressure-treated lumber to stay in code, and that will carry him over that 50% amount. And at that point, that house has got to be raised and bulldozed down and started over. So is it really worth your investment to, pursue this at that point? And the frustration comes just all of a sudden within a week. They've ripped all the signs off the windows that were there. There was a rental property sign, for sale sign. Our code signs were in the front windows. One door has been ripped off the hinges and it's propped up with a 2x4. There's a pallet of plywood stacked up this high. There's another pallet of probably 200 boards of 2x8s that they're going to use for floor joist. Those are not going to be in compliance with codes because they're not pressure treated. So any work needs to cease and desist as of a week ago. It needs to stop. If we have to follow the rules and guidelines, then anybody else dealing with that property has to do so also.
Is this all due to the confusion of the ownership?
Yeah, so we actually received another document on Monday or Tuesday after Earl and I spoke about these photographs, and I can't remember the name.
Cruz Hernandez.
Yeah, Cruz Hernandez, and Michael went out there and met. There was a slight language barrier in the discussion. They are in no way involved with Memphis Premium Trust, so they didn't even know this was going on this property either.
So who hired Mr. Phillips to bring him there? Because we have him on video standing right there one night and says, "Go ahead, I don't care, bulldoze the damn property down." And we came that close to doing it. And he's lucky right now, or you're lucky right now, that the property's still standing. Because last month, he was supposed to be here and he didn't show up. We satisfied delivery of notice with the certified letters and things like that, but he did not show up. So we deferred to go to October and give him one more opportunity, which, is more than fair than what we've done, and we need to cease and desist those type of things with the Housing Commission because we're getting way behind.
Kenny, are we trying to establish exactly who's responsible for the property right now, and that's Memphis Trust?
Yes.
Okay. So the people who are out there working on it right now.
To keep us from being involved in any potentially any future litigation.
Okay.
When you have 3 or 4 or 5 different people saying they're the owners, we only thought we were dealing with one, and then all of a sudden,
Really?
you have multiple. You have quitclaim deeds signed by people that are habitual offenders that are in jail and incarcerated consistently. So until it goes through this court proceeding,
And we can confirm that Mr. Phillips is no way affiliated with Memphis Trust. Have we done that?
We did speak with, for their representation, they provided us at least a verbal that he has no affiliation with them. I've not spoken with Mr. Phillips. Bluntly, I think Mr. Phillips purchased this property thinking he got it from the rightful owners that had the title to convey it. And they didn't, we don't think they had that right. It was just a quitclaim deed. I think Mr. Phillips was taken for about $13,000.
Okay, so and then Memphis Trust is requesting us to reduce the redemption period from when the previous owner can come and collect.
Not asking us,
No,
asking
no.
the Chancery Court.
Okay.
they're just asking us to
That's
stay.
Stay from bulldozing it down and taking actions of putting it on the ground.
And they are the actual owner now. And
They are.
Has that 90-day redemption period lapsed?
It has not yet. It would go from the time of the sale of the date that the order confirming the sale was entered, which I
June
think
26th.
June 26th. So go out 90 days from that. So October 26th is when it would be the 90-day period, which Mr. Guster has a hearing October 7th to have the court confirm that yes, it will deem the property abandoned. And under Tennessee law, if it's deemed abandoned in connection with the back tax sale, the 1-year redemption period is shortened to 90 days, which is what they're trying to do.
Did you say June 26th or July 26th?
June.
That would be September.
Oh, yep.
I was trying to make sure. I had the
Okay,
date.
well, he's still got to go till October 7th, October 7th to get at least get the order from the court that, yes, the property is deemed abandoned. They've been to do their inspection. Under the law, you've got to do an inspection, 3 inspections, different times of the day to determine that it is in fact abandoned. One of the things you've got here is, I think the city, or at least my position is, I do believe that Memphis Premium Trust owns the property as of June. There is still a redemption period involved for whoever has a right to claim interest in it. And I don't know the answer to that because it's either the Lloyd Johnson family, who at one time had ownership, he's deceased. I don't know who his heirs are. And you've got this other deed unrelated to Memphis Trust that's got a quitclaim deed from a James Mullis and something McCrae, Lisa McCrae, I think. Don't know who they are, claiming an interest that they transferred to William Phillips. I don't know, but at the minimum, Memphis Trust has it as of June, and they just got notice of this in the 1st of September.
You know, was there any redemption done as of today? Because today's 90
Yes.
days.
Yeah, well, and so 2 points, ironically.
And I know you still got the court date to make the 90 days stick. I'm just curious if anything has happened as of today.
No, I mean, next Monday week, we're gonna go in front of Chancellor Fleener.
90 days.
Yeah, so ironically enough, today is sort of officially or unofficially the 90, potentially, theoretically, the 90 days, we'll say. And then hopefully this upcoming October the 7th, we'll make it official once an order goes down. And then we'll have that in place to start moving things along. I mean, I think ultimately the city of East Ridge is gonna get paid once.
They'll get paid the liens. The question will be at that point, what happens to the residents? And that's the civil issue. What's that? The residents? Or
Not the
ownership?
residents, but like, if
Gets recourse.
Mr. Phillips, comes to court and they do all that.
That's their, the city has the right to demolish it if it qualifies. The focus here is, do the conditions of the property qualify for demolition under the city code? But you have the right to look at this and think it has proper, if you look at it from a notice standpoint, has proper notice been provided to Memphis Trust sufficient to allow them to address the issues?
If the demolition order would have been issued prior to June,
It'd be gone.
we wouldn't be in this meeting right now.
We have fought it, and there were points and times in our meetings from January. We met with him January 14th, January the 25th, March the 8th. There was a time in February. We have met with him every 4 to 6 weeks with the same song and dance that he's fed. And then
mean, he's even been in here representing that he owns the property and what he's gonna do with it after they bought it on the courthouse steps. So is there not a fraud being perpetuated there?
Well, perhaps, but that may be Mr. Phillips. I looked at the tax records from the sale. Mr. Phillips was not named as a defendant in connection with the back tax sale. Only Lloyd Johnson was. And the reason for that, I think, is because James Davey, the county attorney, when he did a tax search, Mr. Phillips was nowhere to be found because he received a quitclaim deed from two people that did not have any ownership. That's the same as Mr. Custer giving a quitclaim deed to Mayor Williams of my house, and Mayor Williams doesn't have any clue. I mean, Kenny's just saying, if I have any interest, it's yours. It's the same thing that I'm seeing with this property. That somebody, James Mullison and Lisa McRae, transferred it to a William Phillips. I don't know if they had any interest. There's no chain of title evidencing from the Lloyd Johnson family to the two individuals, James Mullison and Lisa McRae. I think you're going to see the probate court flush that out here in a couple weeks.
This is just a very unique situation, and going through the proper channels now, going through Chancellor Fainer, this is probably the right action.
From what I gathered from this is, the action that we need to consider here is whether or not they were notified as lawful owners, which it appears they haven't been. So they're asking for an appeal of the demolition and your recommendation is in time for them to reappear, settle the court cases, and then reappear for the Housing Commission on November the 11th.
Correct. And then at that point, they need to be prepared to address with the Housing Commission what they intend to do relative to the rehabilitation of that property. What they use it for is really irrelevant from the standpoint of the commission. It's more of what's the condition of the property. Is it habitable or is it not habitable? And that will be decided. And that would be decided back in their upcoming November. And between now and November, Memphis Premium Trust should be meeting with code enforcement, identifying what the cost is. That's the expected cost to repair, and whether or not it meets that 50% threshold, because it is in floodway, right?
It's in the floodplain.
It's gotta go up 8 foot plus 1.
Right, so they may have to go up, 1 foot above flood.
Yeah, 1 foot above base flood, yeah, 9 foot rise.
And our meeting for October is on the 14th at 4:30. Our meeting for November will be on the 11th at 4:30. As far as the Housing Commission concerned, I think I can safely speak that we would like to resolve this and get this out of our hair. We're sick of fooling with it.
Well, unfortunately, I think you've been dealing with the wrong people.
Yes, we have. And we have been sniped by him. And he keeps trying, he comes to meetings and he keeps sitting around here, and when it's over, he approaches people, let me buy your house from you. We need a cease and desist of him attending these meetings and stopping behavior like that. I don't know what we can do in regards to that. I'll leave that up to Mr. Ledgeford and the council, but, if that's the type of behavior that he's going to exemplify, we don't want him owning or doing any property in the city. I know I don't as a property owner or a taxpayer of the city. Because we went way above and beyond what we should have done for this man. We had one of the last meetings that was scheduled for October the 19th. On September the 9th, demolition of this property is scheduled. So you're lucky that it's not on the ground right now. We were just ready to go, and then just for some reason I drove by the other day, and that's when I called Mr. Custer. And I've got the pictures on my phone showing all the lumber stacked out there. That's viable lumber. If you can let that sit there for 3 or 4 weeks, I can promise you we probably won't be there.
That's it, I assume that's at Mr. Phillips' expense.
Don't know, somebody.
But they're ripping the windows out, they're tearing doors off. Somebody is working on that house. Somehow we need to tape it off, seal it off, post it, whatever, until this is resolved so that their assets are protected.
I agree, I believe that's a separate issue that we can handle probably in codes. Is that a correct statement, city manager and assistant city manager?
It depends, and I'll talk with Mr. Custer on it. Depends on what involvement we can have on being on the property and taking care of codes issues versus civil issues on this property.
Okay.
Maybe a little more complex than just going up and
Well, if they're working on it, they're violating codes issues and city ordinances, so.
Yeah,
that
so
alone-
we,
Site, yes.
essentially you cite them, you can install temporary safeguards if it becomes a hazard. If the rightful owner, which is Memphis Premium Trust, decides to interject into that and do their own temporary safeguards, they can reboard everything up and reinstall the boards that were probably removed and so on and so forth. That's something that we can work with them on.
I'm sure once they find out they're not going to reap the rewards of their improvements, they'll probably stop pretty quickly.
And they tore down a large gate or portion of the fence to be able to get that lumber in there because they've moved it in there with moppets because it's strapped together, or used a forklift to get it in there. They didn't bring enough men to pick up all that much lumber up and bring it in.
Okay. Item we have is the appeal of the Housing Commission decision, so I'll entertain a motion from the council.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll, given the new developments in this and staff's recommendations of the city attorney, I usually not at liberty of overturning the Housing Commission's decision, but I'll make a motion that we approve the petition to appeal.
And are we gonna put a timeline on this? Are we gonna put some,
Let's do this, Councilman Chauncey, you want to approve the appeal subject to sending it back to the Housing Commission for a November 11 rehearing date at that time?
Correct.
Okay.
okay, thank you for clarification. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any other discussion? Council? I see none. Roll call, Ms. Claus.
Vice Mayor Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle?
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey?
Yes.
Councilmember Witt?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
That is all on the agenda. I appreciate everyone's attendance. I wish you a great weekend, safe weekend. Meeting adjourned.